Chapter 659. Bruce turned purple in the face as he stared at the pill, unable to get a word. Even a layman would be able to tell the difference between the two spiritual pills. There was nothing Bruce could say in defense or in denial. Other businessmen and cultivators stared at Wilbur dumbly, unable to believe that this alchemist was so young. He was young, and he had made such a perfect spiritual pill. No, 10 spiritual pills in one go. This man was practically a genius. Eliam's master could hardly compare to Wilbur, let alone Eliam himself. Eliam, John, Amon, and the rest turned to look at Bruce amidst their shock, waiting for him to say something. It was clear that Wilbur had proven himself, and he had not been exaggerating about his pills in the slightest. Now that the spiritual pill were completed, it was time to judge if fleece flower was actually real or not. Of course, these men knew that the fleece flower would not be able to pass the inspection for sure. If the truth got out, their reputations would be destroyed. And Leonard would get out of this safely. All of their efforts would go to waste, and they might end up in trouble themselves. Bruce knew very well that the authenticity of the fleece flower could not be revealed. His gaze lashed murderously, and he crushed Wilbur's spiritual pill in his hand. "How dare you embarrass yourself with a defect like this? You're slandering Master Finnegan's name. He's all yours, Mr. Hayes." Upon saying so, Bruce returned to his seat to face the crowd with a stony expression. The rest of the room was in shock. Bruce had just told a bold-faced lie, inadvertently admitting that the fleece flower was a fake. Leonard could hardly believe his eyes. He is no fool and was starting to understand the situation. It was still unclear why the rest of the elder four were in cahoots, but Bruce trying to screw him over was the undeniable truth. Leonard let his mind go blank. To think that the chairman would do something like this. Catelyn's mouth was agape as well. Everyone could tell then that Bruce had a wipeout planned. The fleece flower was right there, but he was sternly refusing to admit a thing. That meant that there was definitely something wrong with the fleece flower, and Bruce was stopping Wilbur from finding out what it was. Bruce was going to deal with this with brute force right now. He was going to abuse his power as a peak ambience cultivator and as chairman, using Eliam to take Wilbur down with the excuse of the spirit pills being defective. No one dared to say a thing considering Bruce's status and power. As long as the fleece flower was destroyed after this, there would be no tangible proof for anyone to do anything to him. It was a shameless move, but the world was filled with shameless people. Just then, Eliam had made his way up to Wilbur with a murderous expression as he shouted, "You there! Insulting the spiritual pills was no different from insulting my master, and you're going to pay for that." Wilbur paid him no mind, turning to Leonard instead. "Do you get it now?" Leonard was still in a daze but managed to nod. There was nothing he could say. However, as it was clear that Bruce was out for blood, doing a wrong move and Leonard would be done for himself. Eliam was furious about being ignored by Wilbur. He shook out his sleeves, channeling his spiritual energy, and attacked Wilbur head-on as a loud howl sounded across the room. The crowd cried out in shock. They hurried to back up, knowing that a battle between ambience-level cultivators was not to be taken lightly. Wilbur merely smirked in the face of the attack, retaliating with a swift blow of his own at the very last second. A razor-sharp spiritual blade shot out, knocking Eliam's blow away and striking his body. Eliam was sent flying like ragdoll, collapsing on the ground. He was bleeding all over and could not even get up. Everyone could hardly believe their eyes. Eliam was at least a mid-ambience-level cultivator, yet he was taken down just like that. They stared at Wilbur with their jaws agape. Bruce could no longer hold himself back. He slammed a fist on the table, pushing himself to his feet and making his way over to Wilbur as he launched an attack. "How dare you fight back, you shameless bastard? You're going down today." Bruce was waiting for Wilbur to take Eliam down, or he would not have a reason to attack him. What he was shocked at, however, was how quickly Eliam had lost. The tension escalated immediately as soon as Bruce launched his first attack. Spiritual energy surged out of him, and a wave of spiritual pressure enveloped the room, making it hard for everyone else to breathe. Bruce's spiritual energy hurled toward Wilbur's chest, taking the form of a fist, coursing through the air in a high speed. Leonard and Catelyn were dumbfounded, but Amon and the rest of the Elder Four smirked to themselves. This kid was done for the moment the chairman had got up from his seat. That was the price to pay for ruining their plan. Wilbur, however, let out a smirk. He retaliated with an attack of his own, shattering Bruce's spiritual fist with an explosive sound. Just as everyone was shocked out of their wits, Wilbur leaped into the air before sending a roundhouse kick to Bruce's chest. The speed and angle of the attack gave Bruce no time to respond and sent him flying in an instant. Bruce crashed through the screen behind the stage and a wall in front of the office before landing on the ground heavily, his mouth dripping with blood. The crowd was shaken to their core. Bruce was a peak ambience level cultivator, and this man had heavily wounded him with just one kick. Could he be a sanctuary level cultivator? Wilbur lit a cigarette and took a deep drag before exhaling thick plume of smoke. Faking a spiritual herb to scam a room full of people and try and kill the guy who exposed you. That's a bit much, don't you think? Amon and the rest stared at Wilbur in shock and terror, unable to get a word out. Bruce had died from one kick coming from this man. Bro, Leonard finally spoke up, calling out to him as he stared at Wilbur in disbelief. Catelyn's gaze turned unreadable as well. The ladies covered their mouths, hardly able to believe their eyes. That move Wilbur just did looked so cool. Wilbur smiled at Leonard, who looked over at Amon and the rest before saying, "You were all trying to screw me over, huh?" Leonard was no fool. He had been tricked at the start, but now realized everything. There was no way the rest of the Elder Four would put down their most valuable assets just to get their hands on a fake spiritual herb. Not unless they had been in cahoots with Bruce and the rest from the start. This was a trap set up for Leonard, to take his herb fields away from him. Now that Leonard thought about it, it seemed like Amon had meant to provoke him that night in the club as well. Amon wanted him to lose his temper and make a rash decision. The rest of the Elder Four lushed, not knowing what to say amidst their shock.